Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. I'm really happy to have you here with me today. Today in the kitchen we are going to be making 3 different kinds of muffins. I'm doing some quadruple batches of muffins so that I can put some in the freezer, and these are for snacks and for an easy grab and go breakfast when we're having a really busy morning. The other thing that I'm going to be making is some raisin bread. My kids are absolutely obsessed with raisin toast for breakfast right now. And I decided to just turn my weekly large batch of bread that I normally make into raisin bread. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. But first, let me show you how I have the muffins started here. So these are the exact same base in each of these. I have brown sugar, there is some baking soda, some salt, and some whole wheat flour. And I'll put the recipe that I'm using for inspiration for this down in the show notes for you. This one is going to be a zucchini pumpkin chocolate chip, apple cinnamon, and cranberry oatmeal. And over here I have some coconut oil melted, and this will be the start of our wet ingredients. I am only going to mix up the wet ingredients for one recipe at a time. As these bake up, I'll add the wet ingredients to the next batches as I need them. The other thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take you downstairs and show you the space that we are turning into our freeze dryer room, our freeze dryer slash solar battery slash extra fridge and all of that room. But Dan is going to build it to look very similar to the way that he built the pantry with all that reclaimed fur. Excuse me. I do have a little bit of a cold right now. My throat is a little bit scratchy. Do you know what I should take right now while I'm thinking about it? Is some of this fermented garlic in honey. I've been fermenting this for just about 6 weeks now, and it works really, really well on a sore throat. That garlic becomes almost like candied in that honey, and it's chewy and sweet and delicious. So good. You'll notice that I'm cracking my eggs a little bit differently than I have before, and that is thanks to a tip from one of you. You know, you can do things the same way forever and just not really think twice about it, and then someone points out maybe a better way that you could do it, and then you wonder how you could have not known that. This has happened to me a lot recently with making so many videos in my kitchen. But if you are cracking your egg on the side of your bowl like this, you can get little tiny flecks of eggshell that go into your food. And so just a more effective way of doing it so that doesn't happen is to crack your eggs on a table or the counter or whatever, and then break them. Even better, one step better would be to break them into a separate bowl and then dump them into the bowl that you're cooking them in. So we're just going to whisk up these eggs. We're going to add 3, 6, 9, 12 tablespoons of melted coconut oil, 2 cups of milk. This recipe actually calls for almond milk, but I am using cow's milk. Going to add a couple of cups of grated apple, 2 cups of applesauce. Give this a good mix. And then over to our base dry ingredients, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of cinnamon. And we're just going to mix together our dry ingredients. I just have some chunks of brown sugar in here I'm just breaking up. And into this, we're going to add our wet ingredients and then mix these together. Similar to the way it is with biscuits, you don't want to over mix your muffins. It helps them be nice and light and airy and a little bit less cakey. You don't over mix them. Just until all of the dry ingredients are well incorporated. And I am just going to butter my muffin tins for sticking. You could use coconut oil or olive oil if you'd like for this. And if you want to add a little bit of extra assurance that they won't stick, you can sprinkle this with a little bit of flour too. And I have my oven preheating at 350. So now we'll pop these in the oven. And whilst those ones are baking, we will get our bread going. Into this, I have added 4 cups of water and 2 tablespoons of yeast. This is for 5 loaves of bread. And I want this to be a little bit of a sweeter bread. So I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of honey. Just giving it a little mix to dissolve the honey. And I'm going to grab my cooling rack for my muffins. Oops. Okay, we need flour. This is going to be whole wheat. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. And because I want this to be a little bit more of a sweet type bread with that cinnamon bun consistency a little bit, I'm going to throw in, oh, I just broke the egg on the side. Old habits die hard, apparently. There we go. And onto my mixer, I'll put in a couple of cups of flour and let that mix, and then I'll incorporate in the rest of the flour. I have to go fill my flour bin. And I find with these KitchenAid mixers, I don't know if any of you guys find this, but the bottom, sometimes it doesn't always get to the very bottom, so I always scrape that too. Now for a little bit of hand kneading, and we have our first batch of muffins over here out, and we'll put the next batch in once we have the bread set to rise. My mom is trying to convince me to get an apron. I've never been someone who's worn an apron, but it's kind of illogical since I spend so much time in the kitchen, probably change my t-shirt a couple of times a day. Okay, now we'll put our dough into our oiled bowl, flip it around, and then put a tea towel on it, and then we'll get on to our next batch of muffins. I think we'll do the pumpkin zucchini muffins next. Pumpkin zucchini chocolate chip sounds good to me. Okay, 8 eggs again. Look at these muffins, hon. Don't they look good? Would you like one?
Look and smell good.
They, okay, our 8 eggs, or 12 tablespoons of coconut oil, 2 cups of milk. Oh, there's our milk. All right, now we whisk this up, and then to that we're going to add our grated zucchini. So this is zucchini that I grated and froze in the fall. And then our pumpkin puree. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but this is a baby blue Hubbard. Very similar texture to a pie pumpkin. Nice and thick and sweet and meaty. Whenever you're using apple or zucchini or anything that has a lot of water in it, especially in the case of zucchini that's been frozen, make sure that you squeeze it out really well first before you add it to your recipe. 4 cups of pumpkin puree. I canned pumpkin not last year, but the year before. So with pumpkin, it's recommended not to can it as a puree because it's hard for the heat to get right into the center of your thick puree. So you're supposed to can it in cubes. So I did, I canned it in cubes, and I just didn't like the texture, and it certainly didn't have as much flavor as it does like this. So it's just as easy for me, because I have the space to do it, to can or to just keep them in storage and then just cook them up as I need them. Now we'll whisk this all together. Look at that gorgeous summery color. And pour in our wet ingredients. And we'll fold in some chocolate chips. These are coming together so quickly that I think I am just going to move right on to the next one. Need to melt down a little bit more coconut oil. I'm going to throw in the rest of my applesauce that I have here into this one. Coconut oil. I think I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla to this one too. And a couple of cups of oats into the dry ingredients. Some cranberries to this dry ingredients. And I'm going to add some of my homemade cranberry sauce to the wet ingredients. Smells good. Throw the whole thing in there. Oh, you know what? I was going to make some blueberry ones too. I guess that'll be for next time. I love blueberry muffins. They're my favorite. Just kind of bland? Like not sweet enough? Oh, well, they're healthy. They're supposed to be healthy breakfast muffins. Dan says they need more sweetener. Maybe I will, because the cranberries are a little bit sour. I'll add some maple syrup. You are. This is true. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of maple syrup to these ones. Make it a little bit more sweet and decadent, as Dan says. Okay, wet ingredients into dry again. Those ones are looking good. Okay, this batch is fully cooled off. And so we're going to bag these up. Give those another couple minutes. There we go. So this made somewhere around 38 muffins, quadrupling the recipe. So all I'm doing with this straw is I'm just sucking out as much of the air as I can get out of the bag. Those are so pretty. I love the cheerful yellow color. I'll bet you these are going to be really good. Just going to give the ones on the bottom another couple of minutes. Okay, I'm just going to set these over on the other side so that I can get the next batch in. Before you put these in the freezer, do make sure that they are cooled all the way.
Yeah.
All right, last batch is going in. So this one is the cranberry oatmeal, little bit of maple in there. And then once this one is in the oven, then we'll get our bread rolled out with the raisins. You know what I should have done? Darn it, I meant to add the raisins when it was being mixed. So I guess we'll just sprinkle them on. Wow, this is the way I'm making muffins from now on. Okay, now we will bring out our bread. That's what it's looking like. It's a little bit of flour. Now it is time to clean up this mess that I did try to stay on top of, but it turns out I failed miserably. So I will be back with you again shortly. Good morning, friends. We are now on to day 2 of this video. I needed to take an impromptu trip yesterday after lunchtime to town, and that took the entire afternoon. The good news about that trip was that I was able to stop by and visit with my grandson, which always fills my heart with so much joy. For those of you that are grandparents, you understand what I mean. There's nothing better. I wanted to show you what happened to my bread due to that impromptu trip to town. It got overproofed. So that's when all of the air bubbles inside the bread actually popped. But in this case, I had just asked Dan to just pop it right in the oven. I didn't know it was overproofed at the time, so we ended up with this. It's still perfectly edible. It's fine. It's actually quite delicious. I'll cut in, this is one of the raisin loaves. I'll cut into this in a second. We've already eaten 2 of these, but it's pretty good. Next up, we ended up with, I think it was 120 muffins in the end. We've eaten quite a few of them. I think we ate 15 or 20 of them yesterday. These are all the bags of muffins that are going to be going into the freezer. The chocolate chip zucchini pumpkin muffins were definitely the favorite out of all of these muffins for the kids and for Dan as well. I actually liked the apple cinnamon ones the best. Really, really good with butter. I am still fighting off that cold a little bit, so I have decided to put supper together this morning, and that way I can show you guys what we're making for supper. We're making a really easy dinner tonight, and I do have this recipe on my website, so I'll link that down in the show notes for you. It's a Mexican-inspired rice, and I'm doing this one vegetarian with just beans and veggies, but you can use ground beef in this as well, and that's really good. We've just been eating a lot of meat lately, so I want to throw in some extra veggies into our diet. These are the newest goggles in my onion chopping goggle collection. These ones come from Rachel from that 1870s homestead, and she expects that in the next video that we do with Dan, that he's going to be wearing these ones in particular. Although I think he'd look pretty sharp in these ones as well. But these are definitely my current favorites. So let's don our goggles and get to chopping some onions. What do you think? Oh yeah, these are definitely where it's at. For sure, these are my new favorites. Oh, I already got my knife over, I'm ahead of myself. I also need to go down to the freezer and grab some peppers. I think I'm only going to do 2 onions in this recipe. We are also going to add some canned corn, a couple of cans of kidney beans, some green peppers, and I'm going to get those rinsed off. Okay, so funny thing, these aren't green peppers. These are actually beans, green beans. So I guess we'll have green beans with lunch today. That's what you get for not labeling things very well. I love having supper prepared like this early in the morning, so that way if something comes up during the day, yesterday's a good example of that, supper's already done. Something else that one of you mentioned the other day, again, something that just never occurred to me before, and that is to scrape your vegetables off with the back side of your knife instead of the sharp side of your knife, and it helps to keep your knives sharper longer. There is just so much to know and learn in this world. Learning really does never end. Okay, I'm gonna let these caramelize up a little bit and then we'll add our peppers into this. We'll put our peppers and fry these up for a couple of minutes. And then we're going to transfer these into our big pot over here and add our beans and our corn and all of our seasoning. Now we're going to throw in our corn and our beans and give these all a good rinse. Okay, into this, we're going to add cumin, some smoked paprika. Oh, this smells so good. Chili powder, and a teaspoon of salt. So like I said, you could absolutely add ground beef to this as well if you wanted to. And then to this, you could add fresh tomatoes if they were in season and load this up with tomatoes. But since they aren't, I'm going to add some canned tomatoes. Into this go our canned tomatoes, and I'm going to put the juice in with it as well. And then we'll just let this cook down a little bit, not too much though, because, oh, those are some big chunks of tomatoes, because I want it to still taste kind of fresh and not lose not have the vegetables lose their texture. Diced tomatoes would definitely work better for this than the whole ones, but this will be just fine. I will be serving that on a bed of spinach. So I put the spinach down first, brown rice on top of that, then that goes on top of that, and then we top all of it with some salsa and sour cream. It is so good. It is one of our favorite suppers, and it comes together so easily, and it's super nutritious, not super expensive because the bulk of it is actually beans and rice, but with all of those extra veggies like the peppers and the corn and the spinach, it gives it kind of a light summery flavor. I just love it. I'll show you a picture of how this looks when it is all plated up. It is really good, you guys. I really encourage you to give it a try, especially if you're looking for affordable meals. Great way to be able to use some beans, and also it's cheap because there isn't any meat in here. So I'm going to take you down and show you what we're working with for the space that we're going to be building for this gorgeous machine. And then I'll show you the drawings that Dan did. So this is the space that we're working with. Right now, as you can see, it's completely gutted out, and we're going to be keeping this big freezer in here and then creating this space for the freeze dryer. We may reverse that and keep the fridge in and take this out. We are not 100% sure yet which way we're gonna do it. And then just excuse all of our building shrapnel and mess here, but this is going to be where the battery bank is for the solar system, and the inverter and all of that will go on this wall. We are just going to be starting with this room over here, just so that we can get the freeze dryer actually in and going. The inspiration for this space, it's going to be very similar to this space in here, to the pantry, with the countertop space for the freeze dryer to actually sit on. So I'll show you the drawings that Dan did. He still hasn't done them all with the measurements and everything. These are just more inspiration. So here we go. This is the door. This is either the fridge or freezer. We're not sure which. And then the freeze dryer, and then all the shelving that he's going to build to be able to put all of our freeze dried goods on, because we don't have room in our pantry. And then this will be the battery bank for the solar system. Little rug there. So this is what it would look like a little bit in more detail. I cannot wait. It's going to be so beautiful. Ah, it smells good. It smells like summer. We eat this meal a lot in the summertime, so this is bringing back the summer vibes for me. All right, everyone, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.